You're looking at one of the finest wallpapers around. This is pure fabric, okay? One of the caveats about hanging fabric is that although its quality is practically unmatched, in my opinion, with all other types of wallpaper, I mean, this is among the finest stuff you're ever going to come across. Problem is that the wallpaper absorbs. There are no bubbles. The bubbles pass through, the air passes through the permeable material. Okay, so there are no bubbles. The moisture in the glue itself becomes one with the material. And as the moisture evaporates, well, the effect is a fracture in the seam. You will definitely get fractures in the seam, and you have to get to them before your seam dries. I wouldn't give it any more than an hour to make sure you get back to that seam and work it, pushing it close, because once this dries, what happens is it pulls away. Pulls away. Now, let's talk about the other issue. You're going around a doorway. How do you make sure that the rows on the other side will be at the same level? When you're papering 8 inches above the doorway, guess what you lose? You lose level on the other side. You lose it. Because as you're hanging this side, what happens is the sheet does this, comes in a bit, and knocks the level off. See that? You need one of these. You need a laser to make sure that your rows here is going to be matching over here. Why is that? Because when you get done with this room, you might be able to see that the roses 3 walls away are several inches away from your rows here. Do you understand? You need to be consistent with the hanging of these flowers because the eye will catch it. Let me show you what I mean. So here I am putting the next piece up around this door frame. So you might think, Spencer, as long as it matches here, why are you concerned about 4 or 5 feet below? Now you see, that mentality is the mentality of somebody who doesn't hang wallpaper. Let me show you something. Watch this. Does this seam meet up? No, it doesn't. You see that hairline there? Watch this. In order for me to make that meet, look what it does to this. You may not be able to see the effect, but I'm going to show you something. I make that meet. Guess what that did to the left? It moved it up. Now, when you magnify the small amount of what was moved up, as you go down this sheet, all of these connections are moved slightly. You get to the next sheet, they're slightly different than over here. You get to that sheet, you're off a 1/2 inch. Trust me when I tell you. So, are you gonna go by this up here? Of course not. You can't go by this up here. Because this meeting does not mean that it's going to meet with the next sheet here. It just meets here. This whole issue here, right here, see this? This is critical, that this is level with this. And it doesn't mean that if it meets here, it's gonna be level. That's why I'm telling you, please Don't take level and plumb for granted. Get yourself a laser, okay? So, to go about this properly, we make sure that it's matched up here, but then we have to push this part up onto this trim and push it towards this wall. And then when we're sure that it matches up right to this corner here, then we slice it. And we slice it so that we can get our wallpaper to lay down over here. And this is the critical point right here. You see, look at all of this. See this buckle? That'll throw you off a ½ an inch if you don't have a laser. You might just say, let me get it out. I'll pull it out, I'll push down. I guarantee you this is crooked now because of what I just did. Now watch this. We're matched up there, except for a hairline. Watch this. Watch this now, watch this. See, I just moved it? You saw that, right? If not, rewind your video. Did it affect that? No. But look how much I moved it. Watch this. Keep it right here. Watch. Look at that. Did it affect this? No. Now do you understand why you might be mistaken if you simply go by this juncture here? Don't do that. You'll be off over here. Okay, now that we've cut it here, we can now make sure that this piece is on the same level with this. If you don't do this, you can take this $250 per roll wallpaper and throw it in the garbage because you just blew it if you don't get this down right. Top of the rose, top of the rose, top of the rose. Let's go on the other side of the doorway. Where is the laser cutting through that rose? Is it fair to say, right at the cusp of this thing, right? Let's just call it right there, right at the top of it, right? Now, look at how much we're off over here. Oh, you don't want to be that person. That's significant, okay? So we know we've got to move this piece down. Okay, crucial, crucial, crucial point. Okay? Now you may think, hey, that looks straight, Spencer. Let's keep going. Negative. Please don't get caught up here going around a penetration such as a door, a window, an arch. Don't let this be you. This is a very common mistake with people who hang wallpaper for just starting out. Okay? All right, so let's make this right. So now I've moved my rose so that the bottom of my laser line is just touching the top of that white piece there. Okay? As we see right over here. And now I know that I can proceed. Okay. I've moved my laser a bit so that I can get a plumb line here. And making sure that my horizontal line touches the same part of the pattern all throughout. My new mark, by the way, is, you see this little thorn there? That's my mark. It's very, very particular. And then you see it right there. Okay? After I made this sheet straight, and you can see on the edge, perhaps you can't with the light, but you see the vertical green? After I got that, I made sure once again that I was completely straight, level, and that I matched on top. And now I know that my pattern will be good. This is crucial to hanging a pattern and keeping it level all throughout the entire room. Okay, so our adjoining pieces around the doorway are all connected. Now let's say you were inclined to just simply follow the pattern at the top, making sure that you cut the leaves all in the same fashion. You'd find out that you were off a ½ inch down here. Trust me when I tell you. Now let's just say you were off by 1/8 of an inch from this flower over here because of imperfections in the wall. If the wall comes out a little, you may actually have a lack of level. Here's where you would make up for it. You would install this piece into the corner. You're always going to cut it, whether it meets up or not. And then you would adjust this piece by bringing the bottom in, the top out, and you sacrifice connectivity in the corner, which is imperceptible to the human eye when you're dealing with 1/8 of an inch. But that's where you would make up for it. You cut it, you move the paper over, you put this sheet under this one, and then you have a straight edge here, and you meet up there. Now, as we bring our wraparound sheet, we call it a wraparound because it starts on one wall and wraps onto the other. Now, has any of you thought about the quality of laser that you want to have? There are lasers that have like a little siren on top, like on a police vehicle, and they cast a laser all across the room. Well, guess what? When I bought this,
the expensive laser wasn't available. So I got this one for about $250, but you can achieve the same goal with this one that you can with the expensive laser. Let me show you how.
you can get this for $250. Do you see how the laser line is over there and over here? Well, if you level here and you continue it here, and you continue this line from this wall onto that wall, isn't it the same thing as having one going all across the room? Essentially, isn't it the same thing? So if I'm level here, which I am, I'm level here, and so on and so on. And when I get down here, it's going to cast a level line there. Don't waste your money. Now, let's talk about this. Rule number 1 on inside corners, always cut them. I know previous videos of mine left it up to you, but some of you are telling me, I didn't cut my line and it's buckling out. Okay, always cut it. Always cut this. Except when you're dealing with this. Don't cut that. It's going to be very hard for you to maneuver this little piece here. Don't cut this. So, we're going to deal with level after we cut it down the corner. No need to be wondering if we're perfect, which we are, by the way. Wouldn't that be nice if we could just leave it? Look how perfect, right? So after we cut it, then we're going to make sure that she's level. Let's do that. So we're in our corner. Now, let me back up so you can make sure that you know what we're dealing with. That's the corner right there, and that's this wall here. This is about 1/8 of an inch. How are you going to cut it? Up against this side of the smoother? Or up against that one? Do you know that this is crucial? Well, if you guessed this way, you were right. Because it has to do with entering into the room. I come into the room, I look this way at this wall. In order not to see the edge of this sheet, I gotta bury it under this sheet. If I did it the opposite, if I cut this the wrong way, you know what would happen? I would be seeing one of the edges of the sheets. The idea is to cut this one longer and make it flap under here. Because when I come in the room, this edge that gets cut is gonna be under this sheet. If I do it wrong, this edge is gonna be showing like this. Just look at the edge of this thing as I put it up here. Would you want that? Of course not. So now you have the idea. And so, I'm gonna make sure that I cut it so that the right flap is under this wall. And the way to do it is to extend this wall just an eighth of an inch so that I can go into here. All right, I've already begun my cut. Very nice. Now you'll get the idea. So I'm going to lift this off. And there's a slight edge on this wall coming onto this one. Let me show you up close. You come into the room, you're looking at this sheet, right? You don't want to see the edge of this, so you're going to bury this one under this one. And so there's a slight edge there. And now I can do this. I can just move this over. You see how that works? You might say, why do you cut it? Why do you cut it? My answer is, do you realize how many corners are crooked? Okay, we gotta plumb this up. If this is not plumb, we need to trim it in the corner. This must be plumb. We've done our cut. If you think I do a great job, I'll tell you that this material is very, very fine. And so, don't give me the credit. It's the wallpaper. You cannot see the cut. Okay, now let's talk about level. We're going to be looking for the thorns. See this thorn here? Let me block the laser. See that one? Now you see the laser over it. It's very important. Okay, I think I've emphasized enough how important it is to plan your pattern that goes around a room, how to keep it level. Each sheet is a major endeavor. If you're off by one sheet, you can't make it up on the next sheet. You could only make it up in the corner. But if the error is not close to the corner, you gotta take the sheets off. Don't mess this up. I think I've said it before on a previous video. Wrapping wallpaper around a window where you have wallpaper above the window and below it is, in my opinion, probably the most difficult task of wallpaper hanging. I'm going to tell you why. We've spoken about a little shift to the left or to the right is going to throw off the whole sheet exponentially. Just a little movement here doesn't affect there, right? But it will affect it here. Take a look at our problem. Pretty good, right? Pretty bad, right? We need to get that sheet moved over because we are 3/16 over the line. Okay, I will link an associated video where I did this right around November 2020 with beautiful wallpaper. And we had to do something called cheating the wall by cutting over here and overlapping and splicing it. But there's too much pattern here to do that. And so we can't cheat the wall. We have to get this over and get rid of the buckles. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Look at the problem now. We've got to get rid of this buckle. So we're going to move it over. We're going to share this buckle diagonally this way to get rid of it. This is essential for the rest of the wallpaper to meet up. So let me do that. If anything will make you panic when you're hanging paper, and I'm talking a veteran hanger, it's this issue here. I lifted my sheet of paper and I put a lot of glue under it. Because with the glue, you're creating a bed under the wallpaper that can absorb space. In other words, you're adding to the wall by adding a bed of glue that will imperceptibly take up this excess of material. Look at all that glue I have under there. So we're gonna float it. And with the addition of glue underneath and floating it and moving our buckle this way, we are gonna create the illusion of perfection. The hardest task you'll ever do when you're hanging wallpaper in a bedroom or dining room or wherever. You'll see the pattern is the same against that crown molding. Here's what I did. So I showed you where I was working out at the bottom, right? So I'm working alone today. I don't have a cameraman. There are two sheets after the one you saw me working on. This one here, and then the one that wraps around, okay? So I keep them floating. I don't install them. I wet behind them, really lots of glue, so I can move it back and forth as I have to. And trust me when I tell you, I had to move it back and forth. And then I start making sure that the pieces at the top are the same. I don't have time to keep getting off the ladder adjusting my laser level. No, it's enough to know that the leaves are the same, making sure that every sheet, the leaves have the same amount cut off at the top. And then with the glue underneath it, I don't install any of them. I just trim them now. But I leave them with 1 inch or 2 above and below in case I gotta do this to them. I don't wanna cut it prematurely. And so, as I get to the middle sheet, it ends right here. I still gotta push that seam over just a bit. See it? So this sheet here, I let it stay wet. I didn't install it, and I didn't install the top or the side. Together with 2 hands, one here and one there, I'm jimmying it back and forth to make sure that the seam lines up. There's no other way to do it. You can't install one and then go on to this one. No, because you're doing this down here and this up here simultaneously. So you want to be able to move them so that the pattern meets up. Okay? And so that's how I did it. And that's how I suggest you do it too. You see all the pattern is all the same there? That one, that one, that one. Folks, it's not easy. It's not easy to do, but I just gave you the trick to doing it.
Hey viewers, I'm assuming if you got this far in the video, you like what you're seeing, and I greatly appreciate it. Why don't you take a second and just hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the rest of the video.
Let me give you a less complicated way to go about doing this, in case you're working alone. So, you know, if I move this minimally over here, you know, just a little bit, throws it off big time over here. We've learned that already during the video, right? So now, I get my seam set up, right? Now, when I was a youngster, I made this mistake a lot. I don't ever teach anything that I haven't screwed up myself. And that's how, see, I teach the way I'm trying to explain to somebody who's never done this before. And what happens is veterans benefit from it too. Because sometimes we've been making the mistake for years. Okay, so you line this up here. But then if this piece here does not match the last piece, you know you have to adjust this. You don't need a laser level or anything else. You simply make sure that you have as much leaf exposed here as you do on the last sheet over here. And therefore you don't need a level over this little 12-inch space. And then if we follow the same rule as we did up there, making sure that the little pieces of leaves, and you know, if you're skilled at this by eye, you can say, all right, that's about 3/16 of a leaf left up there. The same technique can be applied under the window. Don't be fooled simply by, okay, my pattern matches. Well, guess what? 20.5 inches later, toward the left, it's not plumb. I don't care if this is plumb. Plumb means straight. It's not plumb over here because there's give in this, okay? There's give, watch. Watch the give, see? Look and I just knocked it out of whack, right? Watch this. You see how that's not straight now? But guess what? That's flattened out. You see what I mean? So you're off over here, you can tell, right? Based on the level line, you see how it's off? It doesn't matter. I'm trying to prove to you that it doesn't matter that if it's lined up over here, that you're going to be parallel over here. Parallel meaning these two imaginary lines, like this one and this one, will never converge. That's what parallel means. They're equidistant. From this space to this, and this space to this, they're completely at the same distance from each other, from top and bottom, okay? So with that in mind,
Now what I'm endeavoring to do is to make sure that my laser line edge over there to the left of your screen remains plumb with the laser. I'm now moving the paper to the right, up and down, diagonally toward the right, both upwards and downwards, to get the wallpaper away from the seam toward the sheet to your right. And that's an endeavor we all have to do when going around windows. It can be a very difficult task. So to recap, yes, isn't that a beautiful pattern? This is a master bedroom in a very beautiful home, by the way. Now, let me just make a comment or two about this. You see the pattern generally now as we step back. The most important part of installing a pattern, this vertical and horizontal, meaning it has an exactitude, doesn't it? Look at those vertical lines. Some would call this busy. But if those vertical lines are not plumb, but more importantly, if the pattern is not horizontal, look at the top, look at the bottom, look at where it meets the base trim and the crown. If those leaves somehow converge into oblivion and start disappearing, I don't care, and neither does the customer, how well the wallpaper is installed on the wall. You will be known for having installed the pattern crooked. Look at the flowers at the top And by the way, never put a major part of the pattern at the top or at the bottom, just in case you're off by an inch or two at the crown or at the base. Keep major parts of the pattern away from the crown and the base.